Since our last board meeting on October 9th, we have continued to receive questions from the community. I want to address the ones that have come most often tonight. Those involve the investigation, Quave as an LLC, questions about the data privacy agreement, and questions about the impact of all of this on our learners. To begin, the investigation authorized at our last meeting has started. We have been told that the interviews began yesterday. The process will continue through its conclusion. The investigator expects to conduct additional interview sessions in the coming weeks and hopes to have interviews completed by Thanksgiving. Some have asked how the investigator was selected. At our direction, our board counsel identified a law firm with a long history in school law, significant experience in conducting sensitive investigations, and all well known for their professionalism and integrity, but with no connections to the district. This was to ensure a thorough and impartial investigation. Next, like almost all Mineola programs, BYOG was an internal project developed by our administrators and teachers. The board expected it to be freely shared with other schools, just as badge books have been shared and used in other school systems for years. We were told that the time spent building the digital platform was volunteered and dedicated by James Nagler. We only became aware of Quave when the community brought it to our attention. In addition, we have been asked why it took so long for the board to act. The answer is we ended the use of the digital BYOG program as soon as we became aware of the extent of the issue, in between our first and second board meeting of the year. Tonight's board agenda includes a resolution to remove BYOG from the board goals. Also, we have been asked whether there was a data privacy agreement with Quave. Originally, there was none because the project was internal. Once we became aware of Quave, there was a draft signed by Dr. Nagler, but it was never approved by the board. It was even mentioned by me in an email. After that, though, and before it became considered by the full board, we ended the use of the BYOG platform due to all the concerns of which we had become aware. As a result, and because of the pending investigation, we did not adopt the resolution for its approval, so it was never finalized. Next, we are aware of some of the rumors spreading online and in the community surrounding BYOG. A lot of it is incorrect, but it feeds on itself. Know that we, the Board of Education, know that we do not have all the facts. That is why we are having them investigated. Finally, despite the termination of BYOG, our teachers continue to educate our learners and manage their classrooms in the same highly professional manner as they did before. We know the transition to the high school building for our 8th grade learners is often challenging. That is why we always expect our administrators and teachers to do everything they can to support them, and we are proud of how they have done so. We have also asked the high school to continue parent outreach to ensure that we are doing everything we can for our learners, and that is what is most important here. Our learners are what drive everything. The board, our administrators, and every teacher and staff member, and as you as parents and concerned family members do as well. Your concerns and questions are ours as well. We understand that may be hard to believe or agree with, but it is the truth. When a new program or curriculum change is introduced, there is often pushback because it's new, different, and requires adjustment. Education is always evolving, and if we didn't change, we would be doing our students a disservice. Change is hard, and we acknowledge that. Mineola has always embraced innovation, not for personal benefit, but for the greater good of our learners. Initial rollouts are rarely perfect, but with collaboration and hard work, the result is strong. When my son, who is a senior now, started kindergarten, before I was a board member, it was the first year of dual language. As an educator, I understood the benefits, and I enrolled him. Each year brought changes, sometimes frustrating and confusing, but I trusted our teachers and administrators That experience taught me that progress often comes with challenges. The situation, I know, is different. It involves significant questions that we believe warranted investigation. The board monitored the internal BYOG from its inception over the past year and a half. We saw the validity behind the work for our learners. Personally, Personally, I believed in its value, and I hoped that my sophomore could participate. Unfortunately, the program we all watched unfold became overshadowed by the concerns and issues brought to us. We do feel badly for the administrators and teachers who worked so hard and diligently on this project. But like our learners, they will persevere and continue the good work of our district for the benefit of our learners. As a board, we are volunteers and have always served with transparency and honesty. Watch any meeting and you'll see nothing different. Nothing we did was ever for ourselves. We listened to our community and our students. We advocated for new fields. We updated learning spaces. We supported strong educators and top-notch curriculum. We expanded high school electives. We developed certificate programs, and we introduced full-day pre-K before any other Nassau County district. Initiatives that benefited learners, not us. All that was accomplished without overburdening the community by keeping the year-to-year tax rate increases at or below the tax cap every year. Please do not let this situation overshadow the many positive things that this board and the district has accomplished. Let's not lose sight of the good. We will get through this and believe in the process. And that is my report.
I was unaware that you were making that statement, so I do have issues with some of the things you said, but I'm going to let the investigation, and I'll hold my tongue until this investigation is complete. Or maybe, I've been here for 25 years. 25 years I've worked my tail off to change this place. And I don't think I'm being treated fairly. And
it's a meeting, remember.
And I think
please.
I think people make stuff up. I think people saying untrue things. You can't refute it because there's an investigation. And then I'm going to be exonerated by the investigation. And then what? Then you're not going to believe that. You're going to make up something else. Our society, somebody can stand up and say, I'm an expert, believe what I say, and that's not true all the time. But nobody pauses to say, well, maybe that's not true. Maybe there's a question. Maybe there's an explanation. But I'm confident that there was no malice here. There was no negligence here. There was nothing criminal here. And the reaction doesn't warrant what occurred. Now, because I've been here so long, a lot of people don't like me. That's okay. That's the world we live in. But if it's personal, it's not educational. I think the marching band and Mr. Camping in particular should be incredibly proud. 4 years, the consistency over 4 years and 2 different band directors, moving up to a higher group, a different category. The consistency of the program is unbelievable. And the love, Mr. Camping's married to another band director in another district. They live this stuff. They live it. He writes drills for other districts. I mean, it's really, and I was just joking with him. like, where do you go from here? He goes, I'm already working on next year's show. So, and they're expecting. So it's just like this constant living and breathing, the love for the show, the love for the activity, and the love for our kids. So I want to give a shout out to him and all his coaches, and obviously all the kids. They put a ton of work into it. And Winter Guard is next. So they have to follow up a win from last year. The home show used to be at Tully Field. And it was, I don't know if they ever repaired the turf at Tully, but Tully just became a shambles. And it really wasn't a home show. It wasn't anywhere near our home. And through a lot of effort, we were able to pull it off at Hampton with the cooperation of the village and tons of work by different people to make that happen. So it is a great event. Mm-hmm. And it's not just for marching band parents. Update, middle school continues to be a problem with the construction, although the field is moving along pretty quickly. I expect the baseball field to be done by Christmas, maybe the beginning of January. The gym continues to be problem after problem. There's delays in materials. There's the low bidder is not always the best person, the best contractor to do a job. So we're hopeful that we're going to get into the new space by the end of the year, and then begin the cafeteria work. But every timeline has not been met, so it's very, very frustrating. That's my report.
Thank you. Anyone have any old business?
No.
Any new business? All right. Resolution 46, be it resolved that the Board of Education removes the Board of Education goal to implement Build Your Own Grade, BYOG, in 8th grade core subjects for the 2025-2026 school year. Do I have a motion?
I'll make it.
Woggy, seconded by?
Patrick.
Steve. Patrick. Any conversation?
No.
This is just because there's no
We're
more
doing what we
program.
said we would do.
Anything else?
No.
Cindy?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 46 passes. Our first public comment is Stacey. Ms. Stacey Tracy, thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm going to skip the pleasantries because time constraints. My name is Stacey Tyson, and I, like many of the people in this room, am a Mineola parent. For those of you that don't know me, I have 5 children in the district. They range from kindergarten through 8th grade. Soy la mamá de Janita y Sarita Tracy. And the 8th grader is not what has driven me to speak tonight. I am an attorney by trade. I currently serve as the general counsel and the chief procurement officer for a New York City public agency that is governed by many of the same regulations and legislation that govern this very school district. That's also not what has driven me to speak tonight. I've spent the last 15 plus years focused on public contracting, board of director ethics, government compliance issues. I'm the ethics liaison and the FOIL officer for my public agency, and I'm routinely called upon to opine about conflicts of interest, governance, best practice, and appropriate transparency in order to protect taxpayer best interest. Also not what drove me here to speak tonight. I'm a Mineola taxpayer. I have a vested interest in the success of the students that come out of the Mineola School District. Chairperson Lampasona, I too was trusting this administration and this superintendent for a number of years, and that trust is now broken. And I'm a Mineola taxpayer that is embarrassed by the state of the school district's management. That's what brought me here to speak tonight. Following are some of my personal observations. I had a few questions, but some of them were answered, at least in part, with the presentation tonight. My low-hanging fruit of an observation is the fact that from day one with Build Your Own Grade right on through to the engagement of the special counsel that we are using for the independent investigation, and you'll see where I'm going with this, but we have been winging it. We've been winging it with the education of our children at state. We've been winging it so much that I've allocated 26, 27, 28 precious seconds of my 180 seconds that I get to speak in order to hammer home the fact that you've been winging it and we've been along for the ride. I could go on, but I'm gonna turn quickly to the independent investigation because time constraints. According to the retainer agreement, the firm that has been engaged will provide, and I quote, legal services to the Board of Education of the Mineola Union Free School District with respect to an investigation into business dealings of the current superintendent of schools. That's woefully inadequate. My questions turned into observations are with regard to the procurement methodology. We are quick to cite policy when it furthers our current mission or current state of affairs. Our policy does not afford the opportunity for our general counsel to pick outside counsel for us. Maybe the best firm for this purpose, it very well may be, but I have with me policy 5410, policy 5411, and regulation 5411R. They all speak to procurement guidelines, the need for competitive procurement, and the procurement of goods and services. None of them say we can just ask our general counsel who's the best for this. We've been winging it. Each of the questions that I did have would have been answered if there were appropriate procurement documents supporting the onboarding of that vendor. Most importantly, the client in this engagement is the Board of Ed. So I think the folks in this room need to know whether the deliverable from that engagement is going to be deemed a Board of Ed deliverable subject to attorney-client privilege, which it would ordinarily be. That's problematic for everybody here and everybody that has an interest in that deliverable.
Ma'am, you're approaching time.
Say again?
You're approaching time.
Some of us have considered sourcing a consulting firm of our own to undertake not only the business dealings of the current superintendent of schools, but every Board of Ed violation, every code of ethics violation, and every violation of general municipal law, education law, and public officers law. If anybody's watching this via YouTube live stream or down the road and would like to help us and support that undertaking, please feel free to reach out. You can find me on social media. I want to very briefly conclude with the fact that there's an analogy in this industry that speaks to the compliance and ethical culture being the immune system for a healthy organization. In this instance, the board is supposed to bring the compliance and ethical culture and supposed to keep this organization, this school district, healthy. We're sick. We're sick in a lot of ways. You can see I'm sick because I'm shaking up here with frustration and anger. And I think it's time for this board to support the removal of Dr. Nagler. If you have the best interest, it's time for you to step aside. If you have the best interests of these students at heart, I don't care if it looks like a leave of absence. I don't care if it looks like it's temporary or permanent. I don't care if we vote him out. But it's time for you to no longer be contributing to the culture of this board of directors and this school board.
Next up, Thomas Breslin.
Good evening, everyone. Some of you might know me, but most of you probably don't. My name is Thomas Breslin. I am a junior in Mineola High School and a proud member of this community. I serve as captain of the Mineola Junior Fire Department and have leadership roles in clubs here at the school. Now, I am usually not one to speak up at meetings like this, but given the atmosphere of the situation, I figured why not. Dr. Nagler, I've always had a feeling that you weren't truly working for the students' best interests. Even before this whole build your own grade situation, your leadership has consistently shown that image and titles come before substance and student experience. Our district constantly promotes flashy slogans, Apple distinguished, nationally recognized, innovative learning, But what good are these labels if students feel unheard, teachers feel disposable, and the decisions are made based on how things look rather than how they work? 2 years ago, a great teacher, Mr. Gandels, was let go over an iPad dispute. A teacher who cared deeply about his students, who challenged them to think critically, and who represented a kind of educator every school should want to keep. That moment said it all. Image over integrity, control over community. And now, with Build Your Own Grade, we're seeing the same pattern again. Decisions made from the top down, without real student input, hidden behind buzzwords and PR. It feels like the administration is more focused on maintaining a brand rather than building a better environment for the people who actually want to live in it every day, the students and teachers. Dr. Nagler, leadership isn't about how good a school district looks on paper. It's about how it feels for the people inside of it. And right now, Mineola feels disconnected and out of touch. And if this continues, maybe it's time for you to step aside and let someone who truly cares and puts students first and community first. Thank you.
Madeline Fiorello. Madeline.
Hello, my name is Madeline. I'm an 8th grader at the high school. At the beginning of the year, I was nervous to be at the high school. I was worried about being around all the older kids, having to switch classes, and because my brother is there. Then we get stuck with the BYOG program. The teachers are mad, the kids are bored and frustrated. Nobody is learning anything. Next thing you know, we're 2 months into the school year, and I have no idea what's going on. Now our parents are mad. Our parents worked hard to make changes. One day you can opt out of the BYOG program, but then the next, you're forced back in. Then the day after that, it's BYOG, but Canvas edition. Then all of a sudden, BYOG is just a memory. Are you confused yet? The students are. But we're supposed to move on like none of this ever happened. It's just not fair. We can't get these 2 months back. I don't know if I'm ever gonna catch up. I know I'm just a kid, and my opinion isn't as worth much as the parents. But students don't trust any of you anymore. You've lost our respect, and it's obvious what your priorities are. You don't care about us. We're going to be taking our first Regents exam in June, and we've lost 2 valuable months of teaching. And that just means the test will be that much harder to pass. Respectfully, I don't think you should be in your position if you can't handle it.
Stephanie.
I hope you listened to those students because that took a lot of courage. So let's get into the details. We're hearing a lot about the data privacy agreement, New York State Education Law, Section 2D. That law requires a data privacy agreement before any third party can access student information that can identify them, like names, student emails, or any other personal details. There are no exceptions. This agreement isn't just paperwork. It ensures that a vendor like Quave handles student information safely. It sets clear rules, what data can be accessed, how it's stored, who can use it, and what happens if there's a breach. Without it, there's no oversight, accountability, or protection for the students and families. Under Mineola's own board policy 3410, the superintendent is legally required to protect this information for students, teachers, and principals. This is not optional, and the board must ensure it's upheld. So on September 29th, the board president emailed me when I had concerns that no agreement existed and said, Quave has completed the standard data privacy agreement. A written agreement has been signed and will be formally approved at the next board meeting. At that next board meeting, October 9th, Dr. Nagler sat in front of 200 parents and said, Ed Law 2D was followed and an agreement was signed. I then filed a FOIL request for the signed agreement, and the district's records access officer, who was sitting on this dais, confirmed no signed agreement exists and gave me a blank, unexecuted copy that was dated September 10th, which is way after even our student data was handed over. So, this means the district was not in compliance with Ed Law Section 2D. Whether money changed hands or not doesn't matter. The law applies to any third-party access. A superintendent cannot give their own company or any third-party access to student data without a signed agreement. That's a conflict of interest and a clear violation of law and board policy. Now here tonight, we hear there's a half-signed agreement. You signed it, she didn't, he didn't know about it because now I have a blank one. What is happening? Like, honestly, what is going on? But here's the thing. No matter how you slice it, there is misconduct here. And under his contract, Dr. Nagler can be terminated for misconduct, neglect of duty, or willful violation of law or policy, all of which clearly apply here. Misrepresenting the existence of a required data privacy agreement and failing to protect student data are direct violations of his duty and the law. You don't need to wait for Thanksgiving. Dr. Nagler should resign immediately, or this board must remove him for just cause. District legal counsel, whose duty it is to make sure the district operates within the law, should be advising you of the same and walking you through the next steps. And to the board, I know this isn't part of the job that you signed up for, but it is part of the job. And every day you ignore this, you're condoning it, and you're showing each one of us and each one of the students who you're actually here to serve. So please do your job. Thank you.
Nicole Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Taylor, and I'm a parent of a junior here and a freshman in college. I'm also a teacher with 25 years experience. I reflected after the last board meeting and felt compelled to share my concerns, which I've voiced via email and in person many times and often have fallen on deaf ears. I was intrigued in the presentation of how students felt about their grades, especially since I have posed questions about the inconsistent grading policy for over a year with no movement or response. This is a grading policy that doesn't even have consistency among subjects, with math having at its highest, I learned at the meeting, 85% of a grade based on tests and quizzes. Students all said they felt defeated and would study and not find success or have ways to improve. And yet, no one simply thought about lowering the amount of that tests and quizzes are worth to what many districts use, which is standard 40 to 50%. No look at the curriculum and where the disconnect is between the content taught and the test material. No thought about whether students are given appropriate programming right from the start. Instead, we implement BYOG and start with 8th graders having assessments worth 10% of a grade, while other students across the school have it worth 60 to 85% of the grade, depending on the course. One extreme to the other. And neither actually deal with the issue of why are these children not grasping the content? Why don't they feel they can be successful? Ms. Parnell made it clear to me that last year that the issues with the grading policy is something she deemed a priority and needed changes. And yet, I ask, what is the board and Dr. Nagler doing to facilitate a consistent, fair grading policy for all students that reflects accurate mastery levels and shows students that hard work and growth mindset is valued? I've not seen a change. Mineola has long pushed for students to take challenging classes in subjects they deem important. Students all forced into classes that prove arduous to the point of creating mental health issues. I have personally had to go to guidance multiple times and call various administration to get my child to have access to proper programming. Have gone through hoops and had to make threats to get my child out of a program that she could not handle a day or two into the school year. Unfortunately, you want to force all kids, even those who aren't ready for advanced courses, by the data that you supplied in the last meeting based on state testing, Regents passing rates, and AP scores into these classes, and then don't offer regular high school programming for those who still want to learn science but are not strong enough in the subject to take college classes in the middle of high school. This district has also placed barriers preventing children from being successful, such as how difficult they make getting a 504 plan. I know I'm not alone in this district-wide issue, and it is most appalling to me that children with IEPs who are struggling in 7th grade in math and science are now being placed with all other children without appropriate supports into advanced math and science courses. We are setting up children to fail. I will note that my daughter is having a much more positive year since she and I advocated an appropriate program for her, and she has appropriately challenging coursework along with proper implementation of a 504 plan. If we want children to say that they feel they can be successful, let's start there. There's a common refrain I've heard, preparing children for a future we can't imagine. Unfortunately, we should start with one that is directly in front of us. While a district emphasis has long been placed on iPads and technology, in college right now, my freshman is not even allowed to use digital materials in multiple classes and must use paper and pen to take notes. She has never been taught how to actually use a computer, type with a keyboard properly, skills anyone needs in college and the workforce. The district has reasonable concerns around AI that was brought up.
Ma'am, you're approaching time.
Okay. And yet, right in front of us, students can use paper and pencil. When we prepare kids for the future, let's prepare all children in our district, not just those who are strongest in certain areas. Let's prepare everyone. Yes, neighboring districts have data that shows they're far superior to our district. How about taking a look at what they're doing and what we are not? Where is the disconnect? Perhaps looking at the overuse of apps and devices over a decade plus and considering the research that says this is wrong in every possible way. And I will end with this. I hope the district can take a pause, consider the research. Why are other districts having greater success? Consider how to create a system of equity, not by making everyone do the same thing, but by allowing children to access what they need so they can be successful now and in the future. Thank you.
Bob Citro.
I took a lot of notes. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff down. I'm going to skip some of it. The board has talked about some of it already, but I'm going to reiterate some things that were already said, and whoever's listening can take it however they want. There's been zero accountability for any of this. I would have gotten fired if this was my job and I did what happened here. I don't know about anybody else in this room, but I would have been gone already, yeah. I'd be on the unemployment line. A message was sent out terminating the program, obviously, before the decision was made by the board, per the message. There was no, offer of a explanation or anything, really, except that the board told me to terminate it. That's not accountability. That was rapid, overwhelming outrage from the community. You were there. I saw you. I mean, I know you were listening. I would have thought you would have killed it right then, because I would think that you would have known it couldn't succeed at that point. It didn't matter how good the program was. It could have been the greatest thing ever. The way that it was handled on the rollout was terrible. And I know that you can see that now. It never would have worked. You should have been able to kill it right there. But you didn't, and that's okay. So instead, the board took some action. They hired a special counsel, $230 an hour, which is coming out of everybody's pockets in this room. But that's really it. That's all that happened. I talked to the New York State Comptroller's office a couple times. Spoke to an investigator too. Gave him all the information. So now we're at the inflection point. What do? You can do nothing. And you can hope that nothing comes of it. Or you can wait and see. And you can also hope that nothing illegal happened. Because if you sat and watched while something illegal happened, what do you think happens after that? They're going to probably refer it for criminal charges. If that happens, you might be accountable too. This is not the easy part of the job. Somebody else said the same thing. Nobody likes doing this. I don't like being here. Nobody wants to be here for this. But we have to be, because the oversight of the board failed. And it's still failing today. So I'm glad that you've done what you've done so far. But you all know what you need to do next. We don't need to tell you. You already know. He's been here for a long time. We can appreciate what he's done in the past, and we can wish him well. But it's time to move on. And I think everybody in this room knows it, and I think everybody at this table knows it too. So this is the uncomfortable part, where you have to move forward with the next steps. And just to circle back to what other people were saying also, A lot of the things that we've done over the last bunch of years have been to push the top up, right? Lift the top. Advanced placement classes, 9th grade computer science mandatory for everybody. I heard about it last week. A couple of other people probably did in the 8th grade. That's crazy to me, that we would push everybody into AP computer science. Why would we do that if people can't do it? Shouldn't we be focusing on closing the quartiles between the lowest performers and the highest performers, instead of trying to lift the top people and push them as high as we can? I heard all about Adelphi classes, all these advanced placement classes. You know what I didn't hear anything about? Remedial classes. Extra support for students. Students with IEPs, 504s, I didn't hear any of that stuff. And Mineola is now known as a district that's difficult to work with for special education. Ask anybody. And if you don't believe me, I don't expect you to. I might be lying to you. Ask a provider that doesn't work with the district, that has no contract. Ask some parents. Talk to some people in this room. They're going to tell you the same thing. I'm not going to repeat any of the other stuff even that I have on here, but I'm pretty surprised at the reaction actually that we had tonight, specifically from you, Dr. Nagler. I've known you for a long time. I went to school here. I would have think that you would have at least recognized what happened here. And that's pretty disappointing, actually, because I went to school under you. And I would have figured you'd be able to see it by now. But I'm surprised that you didn't. So I will sum it up the same way. I hope that the board finds the courage to do what they know needs to be done, or Dr. Nagler, I hope that you find the courage to do what needs to be done. Thank you.
Nick?
No need to time, I timed myself. Good evening. Trust is simple to define, but hard to earn. It's the belief that someone will act honestly, reliably, and in your best interest, even when nobody is watching. For elected school board members, trust means the community believes you will put the students first. Politics, ego, personal gain put aside. Yet that trust has been broken. You have heard all about that tonight, and certainly on October 9th. Even recently, on October 28th, you stated BYOG only ran for 15 school days, and the transition back was seamless. But if anyone looks back at the school calendar, it was in implementation for 26 days. Not even counting the nights and weekends that the students had to put in to do overtime for them. And guess what? If you speak to any 8th grader, you know that the rollback was not seamless. And that is not the fault of any teacher or principal. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Every time we dig deeper, we find more wrongdoing. When you look at it all together, the misleading statements, the lack of transparency, the conflicts of interest, it's clear why the community's trust has been shaken. This is not an isolated mistake. They reveal a pattern of broken honesty, eroded transparency, and ignored accountability. So where do we go? What do we do? I got some ideas. First, leadership change, guys. Dr. Nagler has lost the confidence of this community. And he will not gain it back, I promise you. He should resign or be removed. And an interim superintendent from outside of Mineola should be replacing him until we find an actual replacement. Guys, give me a second. Second, I hate to say this because I know you're a volunteer, but the board president should step down. The false statements, the dismissive attitude that she has shown is something that is not acceptable. The remaining board can work with the community to select a replacement for her. That will be the first step in restoring credibility and rebuilding relationships. Third, you need a lot of transparency reforms. It's crazy. Every resolution, contract, or vote should be posted publicly before and after the meeting. It's impossible to find resolutions, guys. 2, create a public dashboard showing spending, vendor contracts, and outcomes. 3, make procurement transparent. Show how every vendor is selected. 4, before any official or unofficial focus groups, pilot programs, or studies are conducted on any students, There must be written consent from the parents. Finally, number 5, establish a confidential reporting system so staff, students, and parents can raise concerns without the fear of retaliation. The way forward is extraordinarily clear to me. New leadership, true community involvement, and real transparency.
Destiny?
I'm livid about my daughter's introduction to the high school. It was an incredibly tough transition, unnecessarily stressful. Every parent here is angry. It's personal to us. You hurt our kids, and you risk their education. You poked the bear and you messed with our cubs. Dr. Nagler, why not concede? Or at a minimum, take a leave of absence while the investigations are underway. Instead, you're standing 10 toes down and defending your behavior. We can't trust you to do the right thing for us even in defeat. There's a budget vote in May. Who seriously is going to vote for that when we have no confidence in you? Now, we're hearing stories of alleged retaliation against students, teachers, and staff who've dared to speak out against the board or BYOG. We're hearing students are receiving suspicious punishments, teachers being reprimanded, and other professionals being forced to resign or move to other buildings. Is this punishment or retaliation? We won't tolerate a bully. We are letting you know that you can no longer get away with this type of behavior. It will no longer live in the shadows. Sunlight is an amazing disinfectant. Everything we are experiencing will be shared out in the light. We will no longer live in fear. If anyone here feels like they've been retaliated against, reach out to any of the parents that have spoken out tonight. Now I'd like to address the elected members. I'm sure when you were asked to run for trustee, you took that responsibility seriously out of a strong sense of duty to our kids and the community. I've worked with several of you over the years on PTA events, and I know where your heart generally is. I can bet when you were elected, you'd never imagined being in this predicament, but here we are. Your primary job as a trustee is to serve the collective interest of the entire community, to act as a link between the public and the school administration. You failed us. As an outsider looking in, it seems you have only served Nagler's best interest at the expense of our kids. It's not too late for you to course correct and to vote Nagler out. It's not going to be easy, but doing what's right generally requires sacrifice. You're our neighbors. We live near each other. We shop in the same stores. Our kids are in the same schools. You will continue to be our neighbor long after Nagler's been removed from office. But our memory of how you acted in this moment will remain fresh. How will we remember you? In the quiet hours of your day when it's just you and your conscience, you need to remove Dr. Nagler. And if you can't do what this community demands of you, step aside.
Greg Couture?
Hello, hello. So many things that I want to say, but 3 minutes, right? So I'm going to leave you with a couple things that my family brought me up with. 3 sayings. Trust takes a lifetime to build and a second to destroy. Right? Do unto others as you want them to do to you, and actions speak louder than words. How do you adults sitting at this table right now, you're excluded, how do you guys feel about your measuring against those 3 standards? Seriously. Dr. Nagler, you said in the last board meeting you were going to do some soul searching. You made some mistakes. Okay? Doesn't seem like you have a soul, buddy. You sit up here, you're angry, you're mad at us, right? How do you lead without a clear head? You say you're going to be vindicated. Step aside. Let the investigation happen and actually see if you are vindicated. As for the board, Dr. Nagler said this is personal. It's gotten personal. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right? 3 of you over there are educators. How did you let this happen? How would you sleep at night if your kids were in this predicament? And you two gentlemen, LinkedIn tells me you work as an architect, Patrick, and you're a data analyst, Brian? Great questions tonight about the data. Where the hell were those several months ago? Guys, we're not playing, okay? Dr. Nagler, you said when you're vindicated, what happens? Let's play that out. I'm going to be sitting up there in May, or somebody else is, and you're not getting away with this anymore. For the first time, the school board vote is not going to pass. This can't continue. And if you really care, after 25 years, if you really care, why are you letting your ego get in the way here? Thank you.
Anthony?
Hello, good evening. My name is Anthony Moranta. I'm a parent of twins in 8th grade. It's going to be hard to follow all that. I don't have all that energy. I'm sorry, I'm a PE teacher in the city, over 20 years. Voice a little scrappy. I'm a little tired. It's hard to have to bring the energy, but I'm just going to just focus mainly on the foundations of what's expected for a school and a school board, focusing on technology and 8th grade. With technology, I think technology is an important thing that we all need. And yes, it is true, it is the future, and the future is here, and we need to prepare our kids. But at the same time, it shouldn't be a substitute for good teaching. It shouldn't be the only thing that our kids depend on. Our state passed a law where we don't have cell phones anymore, which is great. It's one giant step forward. But then with the BYOG, it's 10 steps back. So unfortunately, it's what are we doing? Why are we doing two opposite things? It didn't really make sense to me. With the iPads, I'm also seeing things on my son and my daughter's iPads where they're getting all these notifications and news, that stuff that has nothing to do with school. These iPads should be focused just on school, and more things should be blocked. It shouldn't just be a free range access, especially as a parent when I don't give my own kid free range access to the internet, because I don't think that. They don't need that. They're kids. They should be focused on being kids. Which brings me to some stuff that happened in the high school where there were some adult images up in the high school cafeteria that was shown, and for some reason, I don't know, are we being hacked? So that also goes to the foundation of, are we investing in our school? We should be investing more in our kids' future in terms of their safety. How are they going to feel safe if we're not investing a lot in our firewalling and all the other technological stuff that I don't understand? But these kids should feel safe, but they shouldn't have to go to the cafeteria and see inappropriate images at all. That shouldn't happen. So I think it's a lot of these little things that I'm also seeing as well, because I know everyone else spoke about all this other stuff. I'm also seeing that, with 8th graders, they're being treated like high schoolers when they're not high schoolers. Even though they're in the high school, they should be still treated like middle schoolers. So when they come in, they shouldn't come in going, all right, go swim. It should be more like, hey, let's help you guys out and figure things out. And I'm as old school as it gets, because I did learn how to swim by being thrown in the river by my father in Dominican Republic. But at the same time, I think with education, I think that we should focus on giving the focus more on the teachers and giving that focus to them, because I know many times dealing with administration, the longer you are in administration, you kind of lose touch with what's going on with the teachers. So with that, I'm going to close with, let teachers teach. Thank you.
Emily Brewer.
Good evening. I'm Emily Brewer from Williston Park. I don't have a career in school districts or educational law. I'm just an analyst. But I've seen a variety of teaching as a mom of one to a prestigious Chaminade High School, which still follows teacher-led instruction. I'm also a mom to another who switched to Mineola after they struggled to keep attention with a year of a remote virtual schooling during COVID. And that was when the teachers taught the lessons direct. At the 9:25 meeting, for the 8th graders, the deputy suggested maybe removing the videos. I think that would have been worse. I am also a mom to my strongest who switched to Mineola after being bullied to the point of anorexia. They relearned confidence just to endure bullying in the school physically. When I sought help from the school, I implored to check cameras. I was treated like equality didn't apply. It finally stopped when I brought up New York case law. So, when I heard BYOG would be no homework and 10% exams, I thought, yes, this is an easy year for my kids. At the last meeting, after the last meeting, my kid received an 84 in their math exam and a 5 out of 5 on the science exam. It sounds okay, but it didn't show all their late nights trying to understand BYOG and catch up since then. Their math class averaged a 31 on the exam, and their science class averaged 2 out of 5 on the exam. The kids that failed probably felt a little better knowing it wasn't only them. Usually I spend my free time trying to solve the crime on a show, Only Murders in the Building. Now I'm trying to follow the laws and money. I don't want to be in a spin-off, Only Ethics in the School District. It makes me sick to my stomach. I want new leaders that can restore faith in this district. September 27th, 8th grade parents received a collaborative response, including open dialogue dates from the district. I want to briefly unpack that first. January 23rd, BYOG presentation. First time I mentioned publicly my son is building the LMS. I watched the video in playback. I heard a young man from MIT without a name. Someone knew because there was laughter on the video. Why wasn't the name listed in the meeting minutes? Why didn't the public hear before the 9/18 meeting? I'd like to see where it was announced to the public before school started. The July 1st meeting was also referenced. After the presentation, Trustee Talty mentioned, this is not easy to do, which is why districts don't do it, especially in an environment so highly regulated. The answer was synergy. I agree with you, Trustee. The regulations got stricter in 2025, and it was addressed in a letter to the superintendents, I believe it was March. So, at the September 18th meeting, at about 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 20 seconds in, I have hired another person to help. Is that person also a district employee? Did they receive a background check before they received access to the student's PII? This concerns me because there was a creepy guy at the bus stop repeatedly earlier this year, and our kids, their iPads or their phones are pinging their location. Missing from the email list was the July 31st BOE meeting. At that meeting, the board goal was approved to implement build your own grades in 8th grade. I went back to watch that video and found it hidden from the playlist. Why is it hiding? Without a detailed meeting minutes, we rely on presentation video. But after the last board meeting, it changed from, it went from unlisted to private sometime between then. It's still private right now if you go look.
Excuse me, ma'am, you're approaching time.
It is mentioned in that video that 9th and 10th graders volunteered. Why couldn't we also be elected to volunteer like that? Did someone forget to request it? Did someone think we wouldn't question it being new to the high school building? Other questions arise outside of this LMS. Why do we have to take 9th grade AP mandatory? Why do they have to take an AP level course? Is it due to conflict with the direct interest in the book discussing computer science and Kiddoyo? Is it in direct conflict with the speaking engagements on this topic? Is it due to indirect interest?
Ma'am, could you please wrap up your at time?
Of a son listed on LinkedIn being a mentor at Kiddo for the last 7 years. I have questions about Kiddoyo now. My kid's work was checked by a mentor, James. Is there a regulation that public school teachers have to check the work?
Can you wrap up, please?
Trying to look at this. I filed a FOIL for Kiddoyo because it's not listed on the third-party contracts. After that, the app was no longer on my kid's iPad. Is there motivation because Kiddoyo lists a computer science course at $600 $695 with limited mentorship instead of the $95 with limited mentor tokens. We want to know about the indirect and direct interests, if they're impacting why our kids are being required to take these stuff. Sorry.
Thank you.
Very nervous.
Thank you. Brent Phelps. Mr. Phelps? Yes.
Hi, good evening. So I too came here not sure if I wanted to speak, but feel compelled to. First, I'd like to say, as a Christian, I have some obligations. Number one, speak the truth in love. So I'm going to speak some things that are truth, most of which I've probably emailed to many of you on the board, but I'm going to speak the truth in that. The other is reconciliation, forgiveness. The last email that the board sent out about reconciliation and forgiveness hit all the right notes. And I think people would want nothing more than that. A much easier path forward, and I don't know if that's going to be popular here in the room, but a much easier path forward would be for us to work together. But I want to point out something. If we look around this room, I have been surprised and impressed by the number of professionals, lawyers, doctors, teachers, data professionals, who all have skills that were first offered to help, but they've been held at arm's length. That we're relegated to a process where the only way we can communicate with this group is to come to a meeting for comments, limited in our time. Everybody else, the last person before me, we wanted to hear everything she had to say. This is a process that you have the power to change in order to invite people to be a part of the solution. But as of right now, you've taken a stance where you're saying, okay, we're gonna let the investigation happen and we're gonna be silent. I believe the board has probably ordered Dr. Nagler to be silent for the investigation. And so when you complain that there are a lot of rumors, it's because you're not saying anything. It's because you're not hearing from people. And so we're stuck in this place. A bombshell was dropped tonight that I just wanted to underscore, right? The board said that this was the first that they heard of Quave when the community brought it to their attention. Yes. That is a tremendous bombshell. What does that mean? The implications of that? Either the school administrators were deceptive or the board did not have proper oversight. I think probably both are true, because what has been highlighted tonight was that actually you guys have been talking about BYOG for a very long time. We've seen in writing how much you've talked about BYOG. Nobody thought to ask these questions. I sit on the board of a public company and several private companies. This is what a board does. This is that. Now, I worry, I think you're educators by trade, but in this moment, there's a different skill set needed here. In my company, we manage some of the largest communities on the internet. Let me tell you something, the community is never wrong. Even when they're wrong, they're not wrong. Because if you go and say, I'm gonna complain about the comments and I'm gonna do that sort of thing, 99% of the time you can learn something from your community when you engage them. And our community is not engaged. Our community is at odds with this school leadership because you put them there. What I would suggest is what I suggested to you in an email. I believe that the law firm that you hired to investigate, it sounds like just Dr. Nagler. First off, the deliverable is to the board. But the board also needs to be investigated. I also believe and suggested to you that you could build credibility with your community by forming a council of people from the community who are also involved in the process, so that we can all say, okay, we believe the results of this. And lastly, one of the things that was underscored tonight, and I'm probably at about time, one of the things that was underscored tonight is we will be voting in May. And that vote in May will be voting for you because you handled this well or voting against you.
And I want to tell you, online there are more than 200 people signed on right now. There are probably as many here. We are all painfully aware of how many votes it takes to make change in our community. I, for one, am probably not popular. I'd rather work with you. But we need you guys to create the framework so that we can work with you. We need you guys to stop being silent. And I think what you probably ought to do is not relegate these moments to just a board meeting where it's only comments and it's one-way dialogue. One-way dialogue only gets us sound bites that sound good on the internet. It doesn't get us solutions. So if you invite this community in, I know there are a lot of folks, I, for one, would be happy to walk down the path of reconciliation. I know there are a lot of folks who might not. And I think I've probably annoyed half of them by saying this, and I've said so publicly. But we have to find a way forward here and just continuing to delay. The other thing is we know that in Thanksgiving, the interviews are done. We still don't know the timeline on the process. So we're still kind of left in the dark. What are the expectations? Please come back to us. Tell us the timeline. Let us know when we can expect decisions to be made, and then we can move forward. The other thing, last thing I'd say, Dr. Nagler at least started in the last board meeting with an apology. I don't think we've heard that from the board. You all have some things to apologize for, right? So that sets a tone, right? And we would love to hear it. Thank you.
Okay, and that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you for coming out. I am in need of an executive session to discuss proposed litigation. Can I have a motion?
Stacey.
Brian, seconded by Stacey.
Yep.
Cindy?
All in favor?
Aye. Proposed litigation. And this meeting is adjourned.